My name is Nanny Rosebud, and I tell stories. Have you ever told a story? Have you ever gotten into trouble for telling a story? It's really important when you tell a story that your listeners know whether it's true or make-believe. I'm going to tell you a story that's completely make-believe. It's an old folk tale from long ago in faraway Ireland. It's called How the Sea Got Its Salt. Once there were two brothers. One was very poor, and one was very rich. The poor brother was very kind. The rich brother was very rude. One day the poor brother found his cupboards were bare, so he went to his rich brother to ask for some food. The rich brother said, "Here, take this leg of ham, but you better not take it back to your table. You'd better take it to the marketplace and sell it for some coins so you can pay your bills." The poor kind brother very humbly took the ham and thanked his brother very much and went on his way. And on the way home he decided, "I will go to the marketplace. I will sell it for some coins, because I do have some bills to pay, and better to pay the bills than put food on my table." And as he was walking along and thinking these things, along all of a sudden beside of him was a small old man. This little old man seemed to have heard his thoughts. Had he spoken them out loud? Because all of a sudden the little old man said, "So you're going to the marketplace, and you're going to sell this ham, and you're going to do this even though your cupboards are bare and you have no food?" "Why, yes, that's true. That's right. Well, I can tell you a secret, and this secret will bring you more than selling that ham at the marketplace. You'll never have need of ham or marketplace coins again." "Oh, do tell, then." Well, they'd come to a fork in the road, and the little old man said, "If you take the fork to the right, you go to the marketplace. If you take the fork on the left, the road on the left, you would go to the woods." "Yes, I know. And at the end of the road, when you get to the woods, you won't see it if you're not looking for it. But if you're looking for it, you will find it. There's a little house tucked under the trees in the woods. Go to the house, knock on the door. A man will come to the door, and he'll take your ham." "Will he pay me lots of coins for my ham?" "No, he won't pay you any coins at all that you can use. His coins are worthless, but he has something much more valuable than coins. Don't take any coins from him. You need to trade that ham for the grinding mill that he uses as a doorstop behind his door, because he thinks it's broken and doesn't know how it works. You bring that grinding mill back to me, and I'll tell you exactly how it works." "Very well, then, thank you very much." And with that the poor kind brother went down the road on the left at the fork that led to the woods. And when he got to the end of the road, and there he was at the woods, all he saw was trees. But he looked, and then he saw it. If he hadn't been looking, he wouldn't have seen it. He'd missed it completely. But because he was looking, he found it, the little house tucked under the trees. So he went to the house and he knocked on the door. And to his surprise, a little old man came and opened the door that could have been the twin of the little old man he'd left on the road. They looked that much alike. And he said, "Excuse me, sir, but I understand you could use my leg of ham here. You have ham to sell." And he pulled some coins out of his pocket and put it in the poor brother's hand. And the poor brother looked down at his hand and he said, "I could make more coins than this at the marketplace." "Well, I haven't any more coins to spare, so what do you want to do then?" "Well, sir, excuse me, sir, but I understand that you have a grinding mill." "Well, yes, I do. What of it?" "I understand that you have it as a doorstop behind the door. You're not using it." "Well, that's true. So what?" "Well, I'll be happy to trade my leg of ham for your grinding mill." "Well, I think that's the best deal I've ever heard." And with that, they shook hands and exchanged their goods. The little old man was happy with his leg of ham and shut the door, and the poor kind brother said goodbye and went back on his way to meet the other little old man at the end of the road. And he went back to where he had started, where the fork in the road was. He found that little old man waiting for him. He sat there stroking his chin. "So I see you've done exactly what I have said." "Oh, yes, I have. And you told me that you could tell me exactly how it worked." "Yes, I will, but you must listen very carefully to my instructions. Listen very, very carefully and do exactly as I say. If you have need of anything, bread, beans, pennies, anything at all that you need, just tell this little mill and it will grind for you. But you must say exactly as I tell you. But I'm going to whisper in your ear, because if it hears it now, it will start, and I don't want it to start grinding now. So let me tell you." And he whispered in his ear. He said, "You're to say exactly like this: 'Please grind, little mill, for I need,' and tell it what you need." "Oh, so I'm to say, 'Please grind, little mill, for I need bread'?" "Yes, exactly like that." "Very good. Then what else?" "Well, to get it to stop, you need to say, 'Please stop, little mill, for I have my fill.'" "I'm to say, 'Please stop, little mill, for I have my fill'?" "Yes, exactly. Just like that." "Very well, thank you. I don't know how I can ever repay you." "Oh, believe me, I'll find a way for you to repay me some day." And just as he said those words, the little old man was gone. Well, the poor kind brother didn't have time to think about that. He quickly made his way back to his humble home and set the grinding mill on his table and gathered up his empty baskets. He took one empty basket and held it in front of the mill, and he said, "Please grind, little mill, for I need bread." And out from that mill came freshly baked, wonderfully smelling bread, loaves of bread that filled the basket until they were almost flowing over. And he said, "Please stop, little mill, for I have my fill." And before the loaf spilled over the edge of the basket, he set it on the floor. And he grabbed another basket and he said, "Please, little mill." No, that's not it. "Please, please grind, little mill, for I need pennies." And the grinding mill filled the basket with pennies. And as soon as the basket was full, the brother remembered to say, "Please stop, little mill, for I have my fill." And the mill stopped. And so that's how the kind, poor brother lived for many days with all that he needed. He had all the bread he needed. He had all the pennies that he needed to pay his bills. He soon went and bought himself chickens for the front yard and a goat for the backyard. And he began to repair his humble little house and make it into a nice little cottage. And he even got some plate glass windows for his cottage. Well, one day when his rich brother was riding by in the carriage, he saw all of the improvements in his poor brother's home and wondered what was going on, what fortune had fallen upon him that he did not know about. So he pulled his carriage up to his brother's door and got out and knocked on the door. "Well, brother, I see you've fallen into some fortune. Will you tell me what it is that's made you so well-to-do here with your fine little cottage and your chickens in the front yard?" "Oh, certainly," said the poor kind brother, and he pulled the mill down from the shelf and set it on the table and told him the story. I see," said the rich, rude brother. But without listening very carefully to all of the details of the story, he said, "Could I borrow it from you, please? Could I please borrow it from you for just one night? I'll bring it back tomorrow, I promise." "Oh, certainly," said the poor kind brother. "I'd be happy to loan it for you to use for the evening. I know you'll bring it back. But just remember the instructions that I've told you. You have to say them." And before he could finish the instructions, the rude rich brother grabbed the mill and hardly said goodbye, rushed out to his carriage, rode his carriage home as quick as he could, went into his own kitchen, made sure no one was around, shut the door, and set the mill on the table. I think I'd like some broth for my supper." And he got out a bowl and set it in front of the grinding mill, and he said, "Oh, what were those? Okay, I remember the first part. All right. Please grind, little mill, for I need broth." And the mill began to pour out broth. And it poured out broth until the bowl was full. And the brother said, "Stop, I'm done. I've got enough. Stop, stop." And the bowl kept flowing over and spilling onto the floor, and the brother said, "I tell you, stupid mill, to stop, stop! I tell you to stop, stupid mill!" And it kept milling out, grinding out the broth, and it spilled on the floor and sloshed all over his fine shoes and splashed all over his fine clothes, and his nice floor was getting fuller and fuller of this broth, so that he had to open the door to let the broth flow out, and the broth was still pouring out from the grinding mill. Well, the rich, rude brother would have none of this, so he grabbed up the grinding mill while it was still pouring forth broth and spilling all over his fine clothes, rushed back in the carriage to his brother's house and said, "Here," and practically threw the mill at his brother and said, "Keep your stupid mill, I want none of it, I can't get it to work properly." And off he went in a huff. Well, the poor kind brother was so sad to hear this, that his own brother had not listened carefully to the instructions and had some benefit. But it was all the better for him to get his mill back, and so he had his mill back, and he told it properly, "Please stop, little mill, for I have my fill," and the mill stopped. And he put the mill on the shelf, and he would only take it off when he had need, and use it for what he needed, and put it back when he was done, always using the words, "Please, please grind, little mill, for I need," and only when he needed, and "Please stop, little mill, for I have my fill," whenever he had his fill. That was the secret to this mill. Well, one day a sea captain had heard the story of the poorer brother's mill and wanted to know how it works. So he happened by and he knocked on the door and said, "I heard you have a magical mill in your house." "Oh," he said, "it's the special mill, all right." And he took it down and showed it to him and told him how it worked. Well, the sea captain was quite impressed and tipped his hat and went along his way. But the sea captain was not a good man. In fact, he was not an honorable sea captain at all, and he was in need. And so that night, while the poor kind brother was sleeping, the sea captain snuck back into the poor kind brother's cottage and stole that mill and took it off with him. And as he took it with him, he went out into his ship to sail far away, and he thought, "I'm going to grind my riches, and I'll be the wealthiest sea captain in the world, and I'll take my riches to every port and sell them." But he could not remember the words to use to get the mill to stop. He could only remember when he said, "Please grind, little mill, for I need salt." He knew he would need salt to sell at the ports all around, because salt was the most valuable thing that he could sell. Everyone needed salt, and everyone was willing to pay a fine penny for a small portion of salt. So he filled his bags until his bags were full, but the grinder kept grinding out more salt. The sea captain couldn't remember how to get the mill to stop. "Stop, little mill, stop, 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 stop." He couldn't get it to stop. The ship's was in danger of being tipped over and sunken. There was so much salt everywhere. So finally, instead of drowning in the salt in the ship in the sea, he decided to throw the grinder into the sea. And the grinder sunk to the bottom of the ocean, and what used to be clear, pure, sweet drinking water became salt. And that's how the ocean got its salt. To this day, it's told that that grinder is still at the bottom of the ocean grinding out the salt, because no one told it politely to stop because they had their fill. Now that I've told you this story, you can tell it too.